Chapter 4. Leaf. In this chapter, you also have to know about the morphology, anatomy, the main function, as well as the modified functions of leaf. Let's start with the morphology of leaf. Here, this is the main compositions of the leaf. The leaf usually composed of the petiole or leaf stalk. The leaf stalk develops directly from the main stem. Here is the main stem. And between the main stem and petiole is the axillary bud. Next to the petiole is the leaf blade. Leaf blade is the whole part of leaf that composed of leaf margin, and at the tip is apex or leaf apex. On the surface or on the leaf bed, we can see that here this is the main vein or the main vascular tissue directly developed from the petiole. We call this the midrib. Midrib usually bigger than another vein, and the lateral vein that developed from the midrib is vein. The another composition is stipple. Stipple is an outgrowth that typically born on both sides of the base of the leaf stalk or the petiole. Here, this is the stipple. And in many species, they may be inconspicuous or sometimes they're entirely absent. So we call the plant that don't have stipple is exstipulate plant. There are many functions of stipple. The stipple can be used as the leaf, like a general leaf for producing energies, or sometimes they use for protect the next leaf or bud, used for the climbing tendril, and also sometimes modify themselves into spiny stipple that can be used to help protect the plant from any animals. So there are many types of many kind of structure of the stipple and many functions. And the next morphological characteristic is the leaf venation or the venation. Venation is the arrangement of the vein in leaf or on the leaf blades. There are two types of venation. First is parallel venation and second is netted venation. The parallel venation is the type of leaf that have vein. Normally the vein bring nutrient and liquid of leaf cells, and the vein usually run parallel except where they meet at the tip and the base. So here this is the vein and here this is the midrib. So the midrib and the vein are parallel except at the base and the tip. So in the laboratory, you can try to find the origin of these veins. They come from the same part. You can try to see from the base of the leaf of dry or some corn leaf. We usually found these parallel venations in monocot plant. For the netted, here you can see how difference between parallel and netted venation. The netted venation is that the vein space along a central midrib, like a lenticulate structure. Here this is the midrib and here this is the vein. So the vein are not parallel. The vein don't go parallel like in parallel venation. And there are also two types of netted, pinnately netted and palmately netted. So see how different. The pinnately netted venation is that the second vein, here this is the midrib. This is the midrib and this is the second vein. In the pinnately netted, the secondary veins are spaced along a central midrib. Here, they come from the midrib or located along the midrib like this. But for the palmately netted venation, you can see that the several primary veins, they are many primary veins, not only one midrib like this. Here, this is the primary vein, and this is also the primary vein, and all of the primary vein come from the same point, near the petioles, usually located at the leaf base. Here, this is the leaf base. So, it seems like a palm, so that's why we call this is palmately netted. So here you can see how different between pinnately netted and palmately netted. This is the petiole and this is the leaf blade. You can see here this is the midrib. The midrib is the primary vein and the secondary vein is the vein. You can see that the vein develop along the midrib like this, and they also have like a third, a fourth vein like this, like a netted, like a net, like this. But in palmately netted, this is the petiole and this is the leaf blade. From the petiole, there are several primary vein or several midrib like this, and all of the primary vein come from the same point at the base of the leaf. So here is the secondary vein like this, third vein like this, like a net. This is how different. So the palmately look like a palm, like this. So that's why we call palmately. This is how we call palmately netted. This is the difference between pinnately and palmately. I hope you understand more clearly from this diagram. For the parallel venation, they also have two types, which are palmately parallel and pinnately parallel. For the palmately parallel, the palmately parallel is that the vein, here this is the midrib and this is the vein. In the palmately parallel, the vein is parallel with the midrib and parallel with each other. But the pinnately, the veins are parallel with each other only, but they will not parallel, or they will not be parallel to the midrib. Here, this is the midrib, and this is the vein. This is how different. For the leaf type, there are two types of leaf type. First is simple leaf, and second is compound leaf. Simple leaf is a singular leaf and never divided into smaller leaflet unit. It is always attached to the twig by a stem or the petiole. This is the stem. Next to the stem or next to the stem is the bud and petiole, and only one leaf here. This is the meaning of simple leaf. But the compound leaf is that the leaf that have leaflets, which are attached to the middle vein and have their own stalk. This is the stalk. And there are two types, palmately and pinnately. How different? Here, this is the main stem of palmately compound leaf. The palmately compound leaf is that the leaflet or the primary leaflet come from the same stalk or come from the only one petiole. Here, it's like a palm. For the pinnately compound leaf is that the leaf have the main axis. Here, this is the main axis, and the leaflet grow along the axis. We call this axis rachis. And this is the difference between palmately and pinnately compound leaf. So now we focus on the compositions of the pinnately compound leaf. Stem, This is the stem, and this is the axillary bud. Next to the axillary bud is the petiole, only one petiole. And next to the petiole is the one pair of the first leaf. This is a pair of leaflet. Next to the first pair of leaflet is the axis of the compound leaf. We call this is rachis. The leaflet grow along the axis, this axis or rachis. And the petiole of the leaflet we call petiole or petiolet. This is the same meaning. In the nature, we sometimes get confused between simple leaf and compound leaf. So there are two things that you have to know or you have to forget that can make you understand how difference between compound and simple leaf. The first is leaf age, and the second is the origin of its fruit. For the compound leaf, you can see that from the picture, the compound leaf usually composed of the leaflet that are the same age. But in some plant, the simple leaf look like a compound leaf. But you can see that here, the leaf age is different. This is the youngest and this is the oldest. So it means that develop in different time. This is not the compound leaf, but this is the simple leaf. And the second is the origin of its fruit. If they have the fruit next to the stem twig or next to the leaf, you know that this is the simple leaf. But the fruit of compound leaf usually produced next to the petiole of the compound leaf like this. This is two things that you have to observe in the laboratory too. For the pinnately, you can see that there are two types of pinnately too. First is unique pinnately, and second is bipinnately compound leaf. The unique pinnately compound leaf is that a single leaf or a single row of leaflet is arranged on both sides of a common axis. Here, this is the unique pinnately. But the bipinnately compound leaf is that the leaflet themselves are pinnately compound. This is how different. In some plants that they have compound leaf and they have only 3 leaflets, we call this type is trifoliolate compound leaf. Is it a kind of compound leaf? But we use this word with the plant having only 3 leaves at the compound leaf. And they also have 2 types: palmately compound leaf or trifoliolate palmately compound leaf, and trifoliolate pinnately compound leaf. Here, this is the example of trifoliolate palmately compound. How to know? The palmately compound leaf, you can see that the petioles, here this is the petiole, is long. The middle of the leaf that at the middle have longer petiole. But for the trifoliolate pinnately compound leaf, they have shorter petiole of the leaf at the center, but they have longer rachis. So in the palmately compound leaf or trifoliolate palmately compound leaf, they don't have rachis. But pinnately compound leaf, they have rachis. And here, this is the rachis. The next character is leaf arrangement on stem or phyllotaxy. There are 3 types. First is alternate, second is axis, and third is whorled. In the alternate phyllotaxy is the most common in the angiosperm. You can see at the node. there is a single leaf arises from the node of a branches. Only one leaf arises from the node and arranged alternately on the stem like this. Meanwhile, in the opposite, a pair of leaves or two leaves arise at the same node and arise in the opposite way, every or each node like this. But for the whorl type, the whorl type is when plants have two or more leaves developed at each node like this. And this is the three types of leaf arrangement. So how to note or how to check? You just go to the node and see how many leaves and see how they arrange on the stem. So now let's move to the leaf anatomy. And this is a diagram show you the cross sections of leaf anatomy. You can see that the structure quite different from root and stem that you have been studying. There are two layers of epidermis, upper epidermis and lower epidermis. On the surface of the epidermis on both sides, you can see that this is the cuticle. The cuticle is where the cuticle substance or cutin substance accumulation. In some plants, the cuticle is thicker, especially in the plant growing under the drought stage. But in some plants, for example, in the aquatic plant living under the water, the cuticle is thinner. So it's related to each other. On the leaf surface, you can also see that some epidermis modify themselves into stomata. Stomata is here, and stomata come from the gut cell. The gut cell can close and open and allow gas exchange here. The gas exchange is important for photosynthesis in this structure and also important for the transpiration in plant. Next to the epidermis, the layer between epidermis, both upper and lower, you can see that here. This is the middle part of the leaf structure we call mesophyll. The mesophyll mostly composed of parenchyma but different in arrangement and different in their size and shape. Next to the upper epidermis is the layer of the stacked parenchyma. We call this layer as palisade mesophyll. Next to the palisade mesophyll, you can see there are many globular shapes of parenchyma arranged, but they don't pack like in palisades, and there are many air space inside. So we call this part is spongy mesophyll because so many air space here. So two parts between the palisades and mesophyll. Here is the vascular bundle. In many plants, the vascular bundle are covered by bundle sheath. Bundle sheath is the modified parenchyma that modify themselves that enable plant or enable some plant, especially C4 plant, for photosynthesis too. Here this is the bundle sheath, and the vascular bundle also composed of xylem and phloem. Sometimes you can also find the fiber having thicker or secondary cell wall. It depends on species. Some plants have many fiber, but some plant doesn't have so much fiber. So it depends on species. And this is the main character of leaf anatomy. And this is the diagram show you how vascular tissue goes in the leaf. The vascular tissue from leaf develop from the stem. Both xylem and phloem go to the leaf. So Normally, in the cross-section of the stem, the phloem will be outside or outermost layer, and the next is xylem. But in the leaf, you can see this is the direction of phloem. When phloem and xylem go to the leaf, when we have cross-section, the xylem will be close to the upper epidermis more than lower epidermis. So it's different in direction between cross-section of stem. Phloem will be next to the lower epidermis more than xylem. So this is quite different because of the direction. In some plant, especially in corn leaf or in rice, you can also see some modified epidermis. We call this is the bulliform cell or mortar cell. The bulliform cells are large, bubble-shaped epidermal cells that occur in groups on the upper surface of the leaf of many monocots. This is the example of corn leaf. In the laboratory, you have to study the permanent slide of the cross-section of corn leaf, and corn leaf have some spatial structure or many spatial structure. For example, bulliform cell. Here, this is the bulliform cell or mortar cell, and this is the stoma. Stoma composed of two guard cells surrounded the stoma, and between the upper epidermis and lower epidermis, you see that the palisades and spongy cannot be separated, or it's hard to be separated. The Bunsen cheese also conspicuous. Here, this is the Bunsen cheese. During the time of stress, the bulliform cell can help or enable in growing of leaf to avoid water loss through the transpiration. And sometimes they also unfold the leaf when the conditions are right. So this is the function of bulliform cell. In general, the anatomical structure of leaf are usually related to the environment, and the plant can adapt themselves to each environmental state. And there are three types of plant depend on the environment. The first is mesophyte. Mesophyte means the plant that needs only moderate amount of water. These conditions can be found generally in angiosperm or in many plants. For the hydrophyte is a plant that grows only in or on the water. Or maybe this is the aquatic plant. And the xerophyte is a plant that needs very little water or grow under the drought state. Mesophyte, hydrophyte, and xerophyte. Corn or sesame is a model or is an example of mesophyte. The leaf usually have bulliform cell or mortar cell that make leaf curl inward, so the leaf is exposed late. That means they can avoid water loss and avoid transpiration. Moreover, corn is also the seafood plant that have chloroplast in the Bunsen cells. This can help plant avoid photorespiration and reduce the efficiency of photosynthesis. The another important adaptive character is typical stoma. In mesophyte, they usually have typical stoma. The typical stoma is the stoma that located at the same level of epidermis. Here, this is the epidermis and this is the stoma. This is the stoma that are located at the same level of epidermis we call typical stoma. For the xerophytes, the example of xerophyte in this chapter or in the laboratory is Nerium species. The xerophyte is the plant that grow under the drought state. So, sunken stoma is the main character of xerophyte. What is a sunken stoma? The term sunk refers to something that is hidden. So sunken stoma are not directly visible to the leaf surface. Here, this is the leaf surface. They are far beneath the epidermis. Xerophytes have sunken stoma to prevent water loss from the plant, and they are often enclosed and partially covered by thick cuticle. And the sunken stoma within the leaf are rather than on the surface. Sometimes we call here the area of sunken stoma that lower than the epidermis level is stomatoclips. So how about hydrophytes? Hydrophytes are aquatic plants that grow on or in the water. And nymphia is an example of this plant. And this is the rhizostoma in hydrophytes. Many aquatic plants or hydrophytes have rhizostoma, which is the stoma that have their cells or gut cells are higher than the general epidermis level. Here is the epidermis and this is the gut cell and the stomata. This character can help plants to evaporate from the stomata faster because they are living in the water and this character can help them to evaporate the water faster. Moreover, you can see that the stomata usually located in the upper epidermis. This is different from general plant or from maybe xerophytes or from mesophytes because the stomata generally located at the lower, but in the hydrophytes, the stomata are rhizostomata and also located mostly on the upper epidermis. And this is all about leaf structure, both morphology and both anatomy. So now we're going to move to study on the leaf function, both main function and modified function. Leaf is the structure of a plant that typically green and blade-like structure. Leaf is attached to the stem directly or via stalk. Leaves are the main organ of transpiration and photosynthesis. So the main function of leaf is transpiration and photosynthesis. Sometimes we call leaf either structure of or the kitchen of plant because they are green and they contain many chloroplasts where the photosynthesis takes place. So sometimes we call that the leaf is the cooking place because they produce food for plant. Except for the main function, leaves also modify themselves to enable plant in many functions, like a modified leaf. The first modified function is spires. Spires are modified leaf uses for protection against herbivores. They have also evolved as a water-saving strategy in some plants too. And the example of spire or modified leaf is cactus. You remember last time we talked about the modified stem of cactus, which is cladode. And cactus also have modified leaf. They modify the leaf into the sharp structure extruded from the stem. The leaf can also help plant in climbing by using leaf tendrils. And these plants they modify the leaf apex to the tendril. Tendrils are modified leaf uses for climbing and supporting plant also. And this is the difference between stem tendril and leaf tendril. In the leaf tendril, they usually use the tip of the leaf or the leaf apex to help plant catching subjects surrounded them. But in stem tendril, they use the branches like in grape. So this is quite different. The next one, or the next modified leaf, is the modified petiole, functioning as floating leaf. We call this is buoyancy leaf. The water hyacinth is the example. So water hyacinth also have modified stem, which is stolon, if you remember. And they also have modified petiole or modified leaf as a floating leaf. The next is pseudostem. Pseudostem can be found in, for example, in bananas. Sometimes we get confused because we think that this is the stem, but it is the pseudostem. It is not the true stem. Pseudostem formed by the tightly packaged overlapping leaf sheet. Here, this is the leaf sheet of the banana. The pseudostem is the part of the banana plant that looks like a trunk, but it is not the stem. The stems are underground. So we call this is pseudostem. And this is also another modified leaf. Do you remember this plant? This is the attractive leaf. The attractive leaf can be found in some species. And this is the modified leaf to have different color or modify themselves to be colorful structure and look like petal. This is not the petal, but this is the modified leaf. And the main function is also to attract pollinator because their flower is small and the flowers are not colorful enough to attract the pollinator. So they modify the leaf into attractive leaf, or sometimes we call this structure is black, B-R-A-C-T, black. In some plants, like Bryophyllum species, they can produce plantlet along the leaf margin of the leaf. And eventually the new plant fall off and become separate from the main plant. This is an example of asexual reproduction. The new plants are identical to the mother plant, so it seems like a copy of the mother plants. We call this seed reproductive leaf. The stolid leaf. The stolid leaf can be found in onion bulb. The onion bulb had relatively small stem. Here this is the stem, if you can remember. The stem is small and composed of or surrounded by thick fleshy leaf. We call this the scale leaf or stolid leaf. These leaves are modified to store water and or nutrient for plant. In aloe vera is also another example of stolid leaf. These leaves are modified to store water and nutrient for plant too. Aloe vera is important medicinal plant using in Thailand for now. The next is carnivorous leaf. Have you seen this structure before? This is the carnivorous leaf, or we can find this structure in pitcher plant. The opening of the pitcher plant is lined with a slippery wax. Here this is the lip and they are slippery. When the insect or a lucky insect visits on the lip, and then these insects slip and fall into the pool of water inside at the bottom of the pitcher. The insect will be digested by bacteria, and the plant then absorb the molecule or the nutrient from the rest of the insect's body here. So we call this the carnivorous leaf. And the pitcher modified from the leaf apex. Here, this is the leaf apex. The last one is phyllodes. The phyllodes is the modified petiole that has become flat and photosynthetic, looking much like a leaf blade. Here, this is the acacia species. Acacia species usually have petiole, modified petiole that look like general leaf. And this is the true leaf. When they grow up or when the tree are mature, this true leaf will be fall down, leaving only the modified petiole or the phyllodes.